On lesson number 19, we're introducing the tongue and slur. So you might have already done this in your beginning band book and you've learned about it, but now it's just kind of reinforcing that. So let's start off by writing our name at the top of the page. Okay. What we're learning here is called a slur. A slur is a curved line that connects notes of different pitches. Okay? Remember that a curved line that connects notes of the same pitch is a tie. So we have to know the difference between notes that have a curved line, different notes that have curved lines, and the same notes that have curved lines, because it means completely different things. Okay? The first note of a slur is tongued. So this really applies to wind instruments, not necessarily to percussionists, even though you need to learn this to know how to make notes legato or connect versus notes that are disconnected. But so on a wind instrument, whenever I have a note that starts a slur, the first note, and then a curved line, the first note is tongue, but the notes under the curved line or at the end of the curved line are slurred. So I have an S for slur. So if a note stands by itself and does not have a curved line, it is tongue. So I'm just writing the T for tongue, S for slur. So this is pretty simple. T, this is within the curved line. Okay, here is a T. I'm going to tongue this note. I'm going to slur that note. I'm going to tongue that note. Notice there was no curved line there, so I tongue the next note. Now I slur these two because they're either within or at the end of the curved line. Okay, this note's by itself, tongue, which means that this note is tongue. Slurring that note, and then tongue that note. So that's pretty simple. Let's go ahead and do number 2 the same way. So beginning, if it's by itself, or if it's at the beginning of a curved line, then it's tongue. If it's in the middle or at the end of a curved line, it's slurred. So tongue, slur, tongue, slur, tongue, slur, slur, tongue, tongue, slur, slur, slur. Notice all 3 of those. This is under, this one is under, and this is at the end. Here, kind of got my box off there a little. Tongue, then here is tongue, slur, slur. All right, so if you've got the tongue and the slur down and you know how the slur just kind of adds in value, pushing your air through while you change your fingering or your slide position. Okay, trombone's a little bit different. But learning how that works is really, really important. Now let's go back through and just name the notes. We want to make sure that we're looking first at our key signature and we're writing down those key signature accidentals. 3 is always in that order, B, E, and A. So we're thinking here E flat, D. Let's see how fast you can get at this. Okay, I'm not really worried about my tongues and slurs. I'm just writing note names in. A flat, G, F, E is affected by the key signature. Are you moving fast? Oh, notice I have an accidental, so A natural, B flat, A, your natural sign, carries over, A natural again. You have to write the natural sign, because if it's just an A, you assume that the A is part of the key signature. Okay? I cross a bar line, so it goes back to the key signature notes, B flat. Here's a high A, which will be flat, B flat, E flat. All right, I'm moving pretty fast, but I'm doing it on purpose because if you are not thinking fast, then you will not be able to read music fast, okay? You can't just be slow mentally as you're reading music. This really helps you to develop the skill of thinking fast. Let's move on to number 2. All right, just naming notes, but first my key signature note is only 1 flat. If you only have 1 flat, you know it's B. So everything else is natural unless it's marked with an accidental. So F, A, C, E. All right, here's my low E. Going down even further, E, D, C. Okay, and here's my very low B. So that is in the key signature. So that's B flat. But now I have a B natural. All right. Bar line cancels the natural sign. So now I go back to the key signature. G. Here's a high B flat. No natural sign in that measure. Here's an A. It's not an A flat. All right. Now I have an A flat. And then I keep going down. G, F, E flat. So 2 things that you're doing at the beginning of lesson 19. One is figuring out the tongues and slurs. Okay, just having it written down there helps the director or you to check to make sure you really know what you're talking about, how those work, and then spelling the notes because that's really important for learning how to read music. Okay, let's move on to the second half of lesson number 19 where we're talking about pickup notes. When you have notes in a song that are not an entire measure, they're just a couple of notes that start before the first full measure, we call those pickup notes. And we do this a lot of times when we sing songs. We just have a single word that is a pickup to the first sentence. So you'll hear this all the time. Now, whenever a note in a song begins before the first full measure, it's called a pickup note, and we figure out the note values based off of the duration of the note. So in this example, I have a 4/4 time signature, meaning there are 4 beats in the measure. So this is only 1 quarter note before the bar line. 1 quarter note is 1 count, so I know that I have to start on the last count of the measure, on count 4. If I had 2 quarter notes, I would start on count 3. If I had 3 quarter notes, I would start on count 2. So you basically just kind of do some musical math subtraction to figure out what count you start the pickup note on. So quarter note starts on beat 4. When I am counting you in, I count you in, I go 1, 2, 3, and then I play on beat 4. That's how a pickup note works. So in these following lines, we have a missing number in a time signature, and we have pickup notes. Now, we don't know what the pickup note is until we know the time signature. So let's start with our first full measure and write in the counts. Remember 2 eighth notes. The first one is on the downbeat. Second one is on an and. Next one, 3 and 4. We have a bar line, so I know my time signature is going to be 4/4. Now let's go back to our pickup note. We only have 1 count. So what is the last count in the measure? 4. So this one you would think of 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 and 2, 3 and 4. So that's how that works. Let's keep going with writing our counts in. 1 and 2 and 3, 4. I'm just going to put, instead of down here, I'm going to put it up above the rest. 1, 2, 3 and 4 and 1, 2 and 3. Now notice I don't have a count 4 right here. All right? And the reason why is because in a lot of music, the pickup note is borrowed from the last measure. So if I had a repeat sign in this here, and I went all the way back to the beginning, my count 4 is back at the beginning. So in my last measure, I would count 1, 2, and 3, 4. I would go back to the beginning and play that pickup note. So that's why a lot of times the last measure of a piece of music is not complete. It's because the pickup note is something that is borrowed from that measure. Number 2, again, we don't know how many counts are in a measure, so let's do our first full measure first. 1, 2, and 3, bar line, which means this is 3. Okay? Now, 2 eighth notes here is 1 count. So that will have to start on the last count of the measure, which is 3 and. 3 and 1, 2 and 3. So if I'm counting you off as a band director, I would say 1, 2, and then you would play on 3 and 1, 2 and 3. So that's how the pickup notes work. Half note is 1, 2. Okay, I sustain on 2. This is 3. 1, 2, 3. 1 and 2 and 3. You should never have count 4s if you're in 3/4 time. 1, sustain on 2, 3, 1, sustain on 2. Oh, look, here is my repeat sign. Where is my count 3? At the very beginning. So if I started here in my last 2 measures with a repeat, I would count half note, 3, half note, 3 and 1. So I'd go back and play those pickup notes. On number 3, again, we're assuming that this is a pickup measure, so let's do our first full measure. 1, sustain is count 2, 3 and 4 and, so bar line, which means that I have 4 beats to a measure. Now again, we have 2 pairs of eighth notes, so a pair is 1 count, this pair is 1 count. So I'm doing the last 2 counts of the measure. So the last 2 counts is 3, 4. And then they're eighth notes, so I play on the ends. All right, let's keep going. 1, that's 3 counts, right? So this would be 4 and. 1, 2 and 3, sustain. 1, 2. All right, so my 3, 4 is borrowed from the pickup. Okay? You can also have a complete measure at the end. If you don't have a pickup, you oftentimes will have a complete measure at the end of a piece. Okay? Especially if the composer wants you to sustain for a full measure. All right? So it's not always the case. Mostly the case when you have a repeat sign that the composer wants you to go back and play those pickup notes is when it's really borrowed. Okay? So we understand how pickup notes work. All right, let's keep going to the next lesson.